All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Keeping It Real. I'm sitting down with my buddy Seth Roosevelt and the Roosters that you can definitely hear in the background. And Seth is a seasoned sales veteran. He sold everything from pest control to cars to, I'm sure, some other different services he was in. So I'm going to give the floor to Seth and just give a little background of like how you got into sales. I'm sure when you were 7 years old, you did not wake up and say, "I want to be a salesperson," but I'm sure eventually you figured it out.
Well, yeah, but since we were little kids, we've always been little salesmen, right? Trying to get mom and dad to at least trying to get them to buy the cereal with marshmallows in it.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one with the most sugar.
yeah, hardly ever worked out. And then when they did buy that cereal, I'd sneak out and take all the marshmallows out of it.
Sell them at the.
No, I just ate them, and then my little brother and sister would just have like Lucky Charms without the
Is this a true
marshmallows.
story?
This is a true story, man.
Like Lucky Charms were just like Cheerios.
Yep.
They're like, did they believe it? Like, oh, we got screwed over.
I I don't really remember, but I probably left a few in there. They
Just
yeah
a couple. Tis the season of giving.
yeah
That's awesome.
yeah. So we've always been, we're all kind of have the ability to sell, especially when it's something that we really want, or yeah. But really, where I ended up in sales, so I was a contractor for the cable company in Florida, and I got into an accident and totaled my truck, which I had all my tools, ladders, and all that on there. And then I found myself, so telemarketing was
Okay.
really big in
What year was this?
2005, 2000.
2005. Okay, so telemarketing, which is still one of like a, it's still a pretty big lead gen source. What were you telemarketing?
Well, I started in a room where we were doing, you used to be able to consolidate student loans.
Okay.
And so we were just calling individuals and that had student loans, or maybe the parents had gotten student loans for their kids. And at this point, the market was pretty saturated, so a lot of people were getting a lot of phone calls. And first thing I learned in sales was these guys had a script, and they're like, "This script works."
Okay.
And I'm pretty good at when it comes to something like that with just following directions. When it comes to say this, say this, say this, and it was just all laid out. When the person says this, you read this, and the whole thing with telemarketing there with someone on the phone, it's just like you acknowledge and you just go right back,
Right to it. Yeah,
right,
I'm not interested. Okay. Anyways.
right to it. There's the natural thing to kind of sit and listen to see how they respond to how you responded to their question or objection, but it's never let's go ahead and move forward with this.
Yeah.
Never is. And then you had to pull somebody's social security number
Over the phone.
over the phone.
So you got to build some trust up with somebody.
Not much.
Yeah.
We would call, and what one of the owners there, and I thought it was kind of preposterous, but it really worked, and I started using it. Someone would say, "Well, I don't give my social over the phone." I say, "I understand. What's your social?"
Yeah.
I mean, and people just started giving me their social security number.
Over the phone.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody.
Yeah.
But rather than going down the whole road of this is why we need it.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
just kind of just hit. I mean, what? So to pause you there, like, what's that? What's the psychology there of like, okay, I get a phone call, and I kind of get what you're saying, but it's like you're almost their objection. You're just not a. It's just continue on. Is that the what the training was?
yeah, the training is, and there's certain objections that become commonplace in telemarketing, whatever you're marketing over the phone, and they'll have the exact rebuttal
Okay.
to that particular objection. And they had an objection to the Social Security, and it was around Social Security number, and it was around the basis of we need this in order to help you consolidate your loans. On a side note, consolidating your loans was a really good idea back then too.
Okay.
You know, because you have these loans,
Bunch of different student loans.
bunch of different student loans. Interest rates were better if you consolidate them, so it was really an advantage to uh, the loan holder if they were able to, you know,
To do it.
qualify
Yeah.
to do
So
it.
you felt like you weren't selling an extended warranty over the phone.
Well, I
Yeah.
did that later. I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
But yeah, so they had a rebuttal, but the owner came in one day. I guess the numbers are bad, and this is just kind of when I started.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man, forget this long rebuttal. Just say I understand when they say they don't give their social over the phone, and I would just say, what's their social?"
Yeah.
And I think through the years of selling, is that a lot of time as in sales, you know, if you try to sell long, you might be wrong, if that makes sense. So when I try, because it's a natural knee-jerk reaction sometimes to explain everything,
Yeah.
you know, and as I'm explaining everything, and if the customer's not already comfortable, or normally people have an objection that they're not telling you as well, and of course they tell you I'm not giving my social over the phone, but to go in this long diatribe
Of
just
why you need it.
why we need it, and I started doing that, and I just started doing really well, and I was kind of surprised how well I started doing, and it was anything but rocket science. It was just read, rebuttal, go back, see if we can help them.
Yeah.
You know, and if you pull that number, you give it to the manager, they look them up. If they've got them, then you could do it, and that progressed. At that same company, we started. This is towards the tail end of the when everybody and your dog could get a mortgage,
Okay.
you know, before the crash.
Okay.
So we were also doing just seeing if people were able to refinance,
Okay.
and I started doing that and started doing fairly well at that. Then they sent me to be a mortgage broker.
Okay.
But about that time, that's when the whole
Crash happened.
well, not really. I'm trying to remember.
Because you weren't obviously like, the license I just went through. I mean, you didn't have to do any of that. It was pre-licensing, because I think you had to fill out something back then, but it wasn't like, I think in 2010 is when they added all the laws of like,
I think you just had to be alive. Back.
yeah, just a pulse,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
just a breathing person.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I knew a lot of people who made a lot of money during that time frame, and some of it was nefarious, for sure. I always kind of look at those type of things as like, if I provide somebody with all the information, they can make a decision,
Yeah.
based on the information. But I ended up actually transitioned to the opposite
Yeah.
side of that, and I'm trying to remember.
And refinancing wasn't really, I mean, again, there's a lot of it was what happened between the banks, and they blamed it on the mortgage. The whole system was part of that, but a lot of that was, at least in my opinion, was more on the people who were purchased on the purchase side, and of course refinance, like you can get stuck there as well, but it was more on the purchase side. People were just your pet dog could get a loan. I mean, it was that's the level.
Yeah.
So you're doing kind of getting out of refinancing. You did the telemarketing, which that's a broad topic, but what's kind of the next sales path you're down?
I'm trying to remember. It was one of these two paths. So I did end up working for a telemarketing company.
Okay.
That was one of the, at least one of the most profitable in America, and they were getting their leads from people who just purchased something off an infomercial.
Okay.
So that demographic.
Sham wow.
Yeah, sham wow. So that demographic. So, and to be quite frank, we were selling like these savings programs, these things that were like $1.
Okay.
You get people to $1 for the first month, and it would be like $39 a month, or offering them $40 in free gas vouchers.
Okay.
that they had to go tap into the Alaska pipeline to
Oh my
actually
God. So you're just
convert.
selling garbage, pretty much.
It was garbage. I didn't
Yeah.
feel good about it.
Yeah.
After a while, I definitely didn't feel too good about it because it was just reading a script,
Yeah.
hitting these rebuttals, and if you can get these people to mumble yes,
Yeah.
you're that's a deal.
Yeah.
And then eventually they made me a closer, which means you have fronters who front,
Yeah.
get the
Then you
people.
get on the phone and you're like, listen, you got to buy this 99 cents,
Yeah, we were hitting
yeah.
with like 3 or 4 different programs. Yeah, so I did that. I forget about how long I did that, but this was back when telemarketing was still really prevalent. There wasn't a whole bunch of regulations or laws or
Yeah. It was not like there wasn't like a do not call registry or,
there was this is just start it was starting to heat up.
yeah.
Attorney generals were starting to get pissed off, and
Yeah.
things were starting to starting to get real hot in that industry. It used to be if because who they purchased from,
Yeah.
they would actually have their credit card already. That was part of the lead.
Okay.
So all we had to do is read the last. We're going to build the last 4 digits of your Visa ending in 3569.
Oh, okay.
Then it switched to that to reading the whole number. Then the customer had to give
The full
the full
information.
number, and then like so this company still kept after a few years of me working there, but eventually, all the angles were shut
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't profitable.
Yeah.
It
You're not
made
really,
sense.
I mean, you're not really getting on the phone and helping
Yep.
people accomplish something that
Yeah.
should be accomplished.
And this is the same thing. Like if you go online and you purchase something, some vendors will send you to like another page where you can purchase some kind of savings club or
Yeah.
something. I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like an example. So it's like, you on a website and then you become a member or something and it's like a coupon thing or what is it like?
Yeah, something I've seen it from time to time. I'm like, oh, that's the same thing. They're just, you purchase something, then they send you to this other website where they ask you if you want to join this or join that. So they're still kind of doing it, but on an
Basis now.
online basis.
Yeah.
Yep. Then I worked for a company called Mortgage Foreclosure Solutions,
Okay.
where this is when the shit hit the fan with the mortgage industry. This is a kind of interesting story too. It's run by Scientologists in Clearwater. A lot of sales rooms,
Yeah.
like the phone rooms and stuff. Scientologists run them.
What is a Scientologist, Seth?
What is a Scientologist? I'll take you down to Clearwater, and we'll go down to downtown Clearwater, and you'll see them. They're just they kind of walk and they stare off into space. That's one of their main headquarters is
Okay.
where I'm from. It's the only downtown area where I'm from that's just not popping.
Okay.
Like on Friday, Saturday nights, because what these guys do, they have so much money
Yeah.
that they bought. They did some construction. They closed the roads. One of my buddies had a store on
Yeah.
this road, Fort Harrison, and they made it take an extra year. So all the businesses couldn't last.
Yeah.
So they basically took over all this downtown area in Clearwater.
Gotcha.
All these other areas, like you got downtown St. Pete, downtown like Palm Harbor, downtown Dunedin, all these little downtowns in Pinellas County where I'm from.
Yeah.
They're just these awesome places to go. They're everyone there's hustling and bustling. And
Yeah.
a lot of good food shops and music, and but not in downtown Clearwater.
Yeah.
But back to mortgage foreclosure solutions. So, what people whose home were getting foreclosed on, they would go into the county records and they'd send these big mailers.
Okay. Like you're getting yeah.
I forget exactly what the mailer said, but I think it was more along the lines that we can help you. And they would call in, and we would take all their financial information. And then what we actually sold these homeowners was basically mitigations with the bank. So we had a whole team.
Okay.
I think it was like 6 or 7 people who would reach out to these banks
And try to come up with a deal.
try to do something in order to mitigate the loan.
Yeah.
Do an extension. You know, they had a few different plans, and if somebody qualified and they could afford the mortgage,
Yeah.
we could help them
Gotcha.
for sure. And but what I started seeing and what started happening was as I'm taking people's financials and I'm going over everything, I'm like, even if we help these people, they still can't afford this mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like, how did they get into this thing?
yeah, how they get into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them ended up, in the arm, and then
Yeah.
all that,
Yeah.
all that.
That was a big. I mean, if you saw The Big Short, right? You watched that movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the movie version of it, what happened, but I mean, they just, there's no very minimal disclosures and all that stuff, and you're getting into an arm, and suddenly like your payments triple what it was, right?
Or somebody bullshitted, right? Either the homeowner bullshitted
Yeah.
or the mortgage broker. This is the wild, wild west, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I wasn't there to point blame, just to help try to find a solution. So, side note to this is there was a few companies that were doing this as well, and the company that I worked for, we were doing the mitigation. We were helping people as long as they were honest about their financials.
Yeah.
We would help them. I'll talk a little bit about the sales process with that. So Scientologists they're like what's a good way to explain? They have this is the sales process. This is how we do it,
Yeah.
and they had this script. And as I was working there, I realized, here's the problem with this script that they had as I saw it, was it was all based in fear, and it was like a one call close,
Okay. And for just to give some listeners or whoever's watching this some backstory, like what was like an average commission, or what were you going to make on on a deal like that? If you can try to remember. I'm just thinking, because you're saying you're going for one call close. It sounds like it was worth a call back. To
100% worth a call back. Yeah, I mean, I think we were making. I can't remember, but I wouldn't been there. I would not have been there if it wasn't.
hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
A deal that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a great setup compared to the other telemarketing stuff that I did. You had your own desk. You know what I mean? It was the real deal. Computer. I mean, it was a real deal. So, as I was doing it, reading their script and trying to follow and do what they do, I realized is that if somebody didn't buy, because listen, when you're asking, because we were asking these people for some money.
Yeah.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, it was based on their mortgage payments, something like that, like 5 mortgage payments.
Yeah.
Because who we were really trying to help with this are people who had hardships.
Yeah.
Right. You lost your job. You went 3 months into the rears.
Yeah.
And this is right before the crash, right? So banks, especially if you had some equity.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bank was like, yeah, we're foreclosing.
Yeah, we'll take it.
We're taking it. This is before they had such a huge surplus of homes that they foreclosed on, and kind of lost my train of thought there. But
we're talking about your sales process and the script.
Yeah, the sales process, and I was like, yeah, when I hammer these people, because you're telling them,
Yeah.
I'm bringing them to reality at the same time. I'm like, look. If you don't do anything about this, the sheriff is coming to your home, and they are going to escort you out of your home.
Yeah.
And they're going to give you like 15, 20 minutes to get all your stuff out, and that's what's happening.
You're not selling the vacation, you're selling the nightmare.
Yeah, and it's true, and I know I've been there, and other people, sometimes you just want to avoid or hope something's going to happen, and until the sheriff's knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Because most of these people we've talked to had already had quite a few notices. I mean, this shit was happening.
Yeah.
If they didn't do anything, they're gone.
Yeah.
So I understood that part of the sales process is to bring the reality to people to say this is what's going to happen, and but they wanted to just like hard, 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 And I knew if I was asking, if you're married, of course, and I'm on the phone with you, uh, it might be something you want to talk to your wife about before you send some guy, 6 or 7 grand. So I did started doing it a little bit, kind of
Out of the script.
out of the script, changed it a little bit, and then I think it was after a month and a half, I got pulled into the office. And normally when I get pulled in the office, it's not normally a good thing, or
Yeah.
HR. But yeah, the guy brought me in, and the Scientologists are big. And in sales, you should always be big with numbers. It's all about numbers. It's going to have to find out where you're at, where you want to be, what you need to do, so on and so on. But they use these charts and graphs, and they pull me in the office and go, "What are you doing? Like, what are you talking about?" And they start showing me this graph that's going up and up and up and up and up. And I'm like, well, I changed things up a little bit. I'm trying to make this more of a conversation and, of course, build the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and don't get me wrong, I go for the close, right? There's no doubt about it, because I know sometimes there's no be back bus, when it comes to sales. And I still go for the close, but I didn't try to.
Well, you felt each situation and listened, and you knew, like I think what you're getting at is instead of following the script every time where it was go for the close, like you're on the phone with a guy who's, and his wife's not home or vice versa, right? Wife, you're talking to the wife, got to talk to the husband, and you build a little bit of trust because it's like you're a normal human being, like that's something you should talk to your wife about, and they're like, oh, that's a good idea, I should probably do that, because ultimately, like, what's going to happen is going to happen. And so, you want them to go for it on the phone, but as you discovered, not every single, you probably increase, I don't know, whatever your close rate, I'm sure, increased by doing that.
Yeah, it certainly did. And, you know, you don't want to alienate a potential customer by just, grinding them down, trying to close them when they have some legitimate reasons to make uh, to make a decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some things to talk about, somebody about. So anyway, I did that. But at the same time, what was interesting was there's a couple other companies. There was one in Texas. There was two in Florida doing the same thing that we were doing, but they weren't doing the fulfillment,
Okay.
which means they were taking people's money. They didn't have the mitigation team like we had. That all these guys did for like 10 hours a day was just call these banks,
And just,
call the banks and try to try to get these people back, get their homes
yeah.
back. So one day the state attorney, well, I'd already heard rumblings about how this is not going good. Not necessarily with our place. I knew we were doing the right thing where I was at. But I go to lunch one day and come back, and the was it Firearm and Tobacco, the cops.
Yeah.
They raided our.
Office?
Yeah,
Nice.
they raided the office. So of course I didn't go back. I didn't go back. I didn't go back
That
to
was your
work.
last day.
Yeah, but they shut all these places down, and it was accumulation of these other places not doing what they were supposed to do. What I heard on the back end was we tried, and here's how you know a company, especially in this telemarketing, phone marketing, if they're legit or they're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
They still paid us
Okay.
after they were shut down.
Yeah.
So that's a really good sign that you're working with people
Yeah.
who want to do the right thing.
Because what do you think the other companies were? I mean, because you're collecting, you're getting money, and it's not going right to the bank. You're the, intermediary pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So I'd imagine some people start to not. I mean, they get a couple $100,000 or whatever they collected, and then if they can't, maybe they weren't sending it to the bank, or who knows what was going on.
Well, I know what was going on. They weren't mitigating for these people. They were just collecting the money on the front end and not doing shit on the back end.
Nice.
What I found out later, what ended up happening was, as all this fire had been lit, that the we tried to help a lady who lied about her financials,
Okay.
and because she lied about her financials, she called the attorney general. And since this tsunami was already
Going.
coming for this industry, yeah, it hit us.
Yeah.
You know.
Let me just check this over.
Okay. We'll take our shirts off here.
Gotta pay extra for that.
Yeah. Um,
So yeah, so I guess so that got legitimately rated, taken down. Crash of '08. Um, like just to kind of take a pause and just go like, did you enjoy you just I mean, knew you liked to talk to people, right? And so like I guess as sales as a whole, like you're doing all that stuff. I mean, it's obviously money driven, but I mean, I think that one of the things that we learn, I'm young, I'm learning it, is that like it's great when you can sell stuff, right? And you make some money, but when you can actually do something that actually helps people, then it's you have like a stronger conviction that you sell with. So it sounds like you kind of went through that where you were doing some telemarketing stuff. It was good, then it wasn't so good. Then at least the mortgage thing, you felt like you were at a company and what you were doing were trying to help people because it's hard to sell and it's hard to close. But if you're trying to sell something that's not, it's like a scam or it's not legitimately helping people, it's even harder. So what kind of with that, after you got rated with that, like going forward, I mean, did you try to find things that were more focused on the customer or having a team, or what was kind of like the thought in the head, or was it just, hey, how do I, you're just trying to make it in the world like the rest of us? Like, what was the thought?
well, there's a couple things with sales. Initially, I like doing hard stuff, and it's always a challenge. And I've always had this type of ego where I want to be number one. So for a while, like with the telemarketing and some of those things, unfortunately, it wasn't about helping people. It was really just about trying to, you know, help myself. With the telemarketing gig, it was, I mean, if people used some of those programs and did some of those things, but I really felt like we were just trying to get their
Yeah,
credit
you
card.
knew.
Yeah,
You got a
yeah,
conscience, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that was an interesting place. I was a little older, but there's people making six figures a year there.
Yeah.
There's 20-year-old kids driving brand new Lexuses, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was very the temptation, and
Yeah.
all that was there. But then get into the foreclosure assistance solutions that we talked about. Yeah, I felt like I was actually helping, actually able to help people. And naturally, I'm a little introverted, especially initially. So sales has really helped me, with not being so introverted, and
Mm.
getting to meet people. And sales has absolutely changed that. Still even today, like where I work, I still have this thing in my mind tell me don't go up to I always have to fight
Yeah.
this thing that wants the easier, softer,
Yeah.
easier, softer way.
Yeah, because naturally, I mean, I think everyone, it's just different levels, but I mean, you, or especially outbound calls, or,
Mm-hmm.
if you have to walk into a place to do a cold introduction, all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
there's just that voice in your head. It's like, oh man, but like, you have to do those things. And then it's like the momentum, I call it that, is that I do not want to start dialing the phone. But once I start dialing, like the first phone call is the hardest.
Uh huh.
Second call is easier. Third call is easier. Boom, boom, boom. And
Mm-hmm.
then I mean, and then the next day, it's almost like a reset. You're almost like back to that same
Same.
fucking thing, man. It's
Yep.
like, I don't want to do
Yep.
this.
Yeah, it's like my mind says it's not going to matter. No one's going to answer. It's a constant like battling against yourself.
Yeah.
Really, is what it is. It's a battle of, and So the next few jobs I'm going to talk about are commission only jobs,
Okay.
which the stakes is a lot higher than, right. That foreclosure assistance solutions job, if I remember correctly, might have been minimum wage, which That's almost a commission only.
Yeah, yeah.
That's almost a
I mean,
commission
you could
only.
maybe pay like a rent,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, a month or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
So the next endeavor I did, it was really fun for a while. It was fitness marketing
Okay.
company. So just to give you a kind of an idea of how the structure was, is if you were a gym owner and your gym was struggling, or if you'd used us before and knew how well this could work, you would look for a company. We would market. We send out mailers, and what we would do is we'll come in and we'll give you between 150 and 300 new EFT members. EFT members are electronic funds transfer contracts,
Okay. Recurring.
recurring
Yeah.
contracts. Yep. So, and we always did the upfront cost as well.
So you'd fly out, you do the
We normally I'd drive out because I'd go from
place to place.
place to place, and I did fly out to, like, from Florida. When I came out to the West Coast, I would fly out. But
Yeah.
I kind of liked having my car and like driving and hitting. I got to see a lot of the
Country.
a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of the country doing
Yeah.
this. That was just one of the side benefits of this job. So what we would do is we would front the first bit of marketing. So I would go out to a gym, and normally the gym owners were very happy to see us when I got there. That would change though, because here we are, we're coming out, no cost to them, and our first marketing campaign that we normally do, and if you guys have seen this before on Facebook or any of these places, and I forget the
Oh, Alex Hormozzi.
Yep.
Gym launch.
Yep.
Yeah.
is weight loss fitness program.
Like a 6 week. Is it the 6 week challenge or
Well,
something?
this was 16-week challenge.
16 week.
Right.
Okay.
And the marketing was 16-week, and we'd give them a bunch of stuff for free, but they'd have to have a gym membership, right?
Okay.
So we would go out, we would drop bulk mail, and then we essentially would set up our own business inside of
The gym.
a gym. Yep. So we'd handle all the people calling in off the postcards. Now this is all streamlined into
Yeah.
Facebook and shit like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But it's the same process. Process is the same.
Process
You
is
might
the
not
same.
be there, but
Yep. Set appointments, have women come in, and this is where I really started to kind of do these. This is my first time really like face to face
in sales. Okay.
in sales.
Yeah, because you've been on the phone,
Yep.
and now you got to read body. What are we? 90, like what is communication? Like 87% body language or whatever the statistic is. So you're kind of learning that because in person, you didn't have that luxury, or
All over the phone before.
Yeah.
Yep. All over the phone, and now, and we'd also do. So I'd also hire telemarketers.
Okay.
I'd put a couple. I'd buy some cell phones, get them set up with the number for whatever area code, and we'd have, depending, 2 or 3, 4 or 5. Normally they were girls that we'd hire, and we'd have them call just local businesses, say, hey, you want a free 2-week membership? So that was one of the marketings. We'd also send out a like a pay in full marketing.
Okay.
So it's giving people a big discount.
Yeah.
Because what we would use is the cash that
Collected.
we'd collect cash. Any cash we'd collect, we'd use that to pay ourselves, to pay for hotels. Sometimes I'd do a hotel trade where I'd give give a hotel access to that gym for their guests for a year. Normally I'd turn that in at the end to the gym owner.
Yeah.
But we kind of tell them in the beginning, this is, because if not, we got to take this cash, because at the end of the promotion, there'd be a cash split. They'd split the cash with us,
Okay.
and they get half the cash.
And they would keep the recurring clients or whatever.
Yeah, they keep they would keep the recurring, plus we got a percentage of that as well.
Okay. So you got long term. I mean,
Long term, short term, pays
Yeah.
for the whole entire promotion. Once I figured out how all this worked, I was like, oh, I see how we do this.
yeah.
now.
Okay. So we kind of skipped, or I kind of cut you off there, but so now you're dealing with people in person. You're selling something that's emotional, like weight loss,
Hmm.
you know, typically was it aimed at women in general, or was it
Absolutely, it was. It
all?
was. It was all women. So
Okay,
this is something good to talk about because this is where I started to learn some stuff. All the stuff I'm talking about along the way, 95% of it, I went to somebody and said, "Here's how I'm struggling," and somebody gave me, say, "Do this next time, try this next time."
gotcha.
So most of the stuff, other than kind of my style or
The way you build rapport or whatever.
other than that, like the skill set of this thing, and I've come up with a couple things, but overall, all the big stuff, somebody has helped me with. I go, hey, I'm struggling. Be like, do this, and I'm like, okay, next time when that light bulb goes off, when someone says something, then I would just do what they say. And what's so cool about that too is when somebody helps you
Yeah.
and that works, you're like, oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
listen. Well,
yeah.
because it's that ego. It's like we got to listen. We think that we are we know how to do everything,
Yep.
and then you have to crush that ego down and be like, hey, how do you do this? Just like, you were saying with the social security thing. I'm sure when they told you that, you're like, there ain't fucking no way that's working. And then boom, you did it,
Yep.
and you're like, okay, never mind. I don't need this long-winded explanation.
Yeah.
Boom, we're rolling. Yeah.
Exactly. And I've a lot of sales things I've seen people be hard-headed and just struggle,
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can get hard-headed and do some things, but overall when I'm struggling, I tell somebody and I normally follow that advice that I get
Yeah.
from somebody. So anyway, so this is kind of interesting. So we're bringing in women who have struggled with weight loss, and not only have they struggled with weight loss, these women are coming in to a health club, and we do Gold's Gym.
Okay.
We do some of these
Intimidating.
very, very intimidating, and I could tell. And we had a thing that we'd have the potential gym member fill out, and basically what that was, it gave me all the information
Okay.
that I kind of needed to know, especially when the objections would come up. I'd be able to handle all that before. But what I realized is like I think I'm doing my job really well, and I didn't realize that how uncomfortable these women were.
How nervous they were.
How uncomfortable were, sitting with their hands, and it clicked to me that although I have this great program that I know if they do it, we get them in here, that they're going to they'll have a chance of being successful
Yeah, if they
this
follow
plan.
it. Yeah, you're not
Absolutely.
selling. It's not
Yep.
some garbage thing. You're
Yep.
selling.
Yeah, I had ladies that at some other gyms because I'd be in these gyms sometimes for 2 or 3 months, they come up to me and give me big hugs. Thank you so much for talking me into this, and
Changed my life.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
yeah. But I finally realized is that I need them before I start talking about fitness, before I start talking about any of this stuff. I need her to uncross her arms. That's the first thing I need to do here. So that started being my goal. How do I get them comfortable in a totally uncomfortable situation and have a little empathy and sympathy and understand that this is a tough deal,
Yeah.
because most of as I start to interview and start to go over some of these things, these are women who've struggled,
Yeah.
with
Maybe their whole life.
yeah.
Yeah.
And almost all of them, by the time that they're going to show up to a Gold's Gym to meet some doofus like me they don't know, is that they've tried everything.
Yeah.
All the fad diets, all the things that are out there. And I mean, me and you both know that. I mean, when it comes to being in shape and fitness and all that, the main thing is be healthy.
Yeah, and there's no avoiding the work. I mean, you just
Yep.
have to and there's none of that shit. I've never had to lose weight before, but again, to like get in shape and do all that stuff, it's just consistently show up.
Mm-hmm.
And after about 3 months, you're like, oh, okay. But most of the time, people do it for 3 weeks, and they're like, this isn't working. Let me try this easier, faster, shinier program,
Yep.
right? And so that's what they've built up for maybe freaking decades walking in, and then on top of that, they're walking in to meet, you, who's a male, who's, not, it's not like a friend. I mean, you try to become their friend, but that's what you've got the farthest spread pretty much you could have.
Yeah. So I learned about rapport and trying to, get somebody a little more comfortable. And that program worked really well. Sometimes the gym that we did, now all these contracts were signed with the gym. This is what we're doing. This is what you need to provide. Sometimes depending on the gym, they'd half-ass things and stuff like that. But I didn't see that necessarily as my issue, so to speak, because and you don't really know that to the end of promotion anyway.
Yeah.
You don't see all this stuff going on, and so that was one of the main programs that we ran in order to drive members to the gym. And the interesting thing about this business was about, because we were good at what we do.
Yeah.
We were good at driving traffic into the gym, and we were really good at selling memberships. Really good. I mean, we were like trained assassins.
Yeah.
When it came to this. I have all this information on this thing that they filled out, so this open-ended conversation I would have with them before I'd go into we call it the close.
Yeah, the close. Yeah.
The close is that I've handled all these objections.
Yeah.
They don't know it yet, but I've handled them all.
Okay.
We've talked about how they eat. We've talked about do they have time, all these things, and just this relaxed, open-ended conversation. Talk about their goals. Talk about the last time that they thought about getting a gym membership, the last time that they went into a gym. So when it comes time to
close,
I have all this information that, I'm
gonna use it. You're gonna use to make the sale. Yeah.
Because time, money, there's a few
spouses,
all that stuff. The spouse one was, I had to kind of figure that one out because you can ask somebody, say, is your spouse okay with this?
Yeah.
And they'll say yes.
Yeah.
No one's going to say no.
Yeah.
Necessarily. But you really have to dig a lot deeper into that. What I learned, especially with the weight loss study, I would ask them, I'd say, sometimes in the past we've seen women start this program and for some reason their husbands aren't happy with it or boyfriends aren't happy with it, and I don't know for what reason. If we were to enroll you in this program, what do you think your husband would think about this? And then they go into a lot more detail. I'm doing this no matter, this no matter what.
Well, because there's you kind of sold the vacation in there, and then you want to pull up any objections.
Yeah.
You're trying to get them to tell them, because like you said, if they start losing weight, whether that's a real story or not, but if they start losing weight, husband's overweight, he's going to be like, I don't, who knows what you're dealing with.
Right.
But that's not the point. The point is to figure out that's an objection point, and now trying to close that off.
I mean, how many times, how many times have you gone to purchase something and maybe or do something that's gonna it's gonna change your life a little bit, right? It's like the change I just made going to Tony Honda, right?
Yeah.
These type of things is like when you leave without doing it, your mind doesn't normally give you a million reasons to go ahead and do it. Our minds have this trajectory where it's like, I really didn't like that guy, Seth. Kind of smelled in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if I can make it 3 times a week. Or, you know what? I'm sure they'll be running this program in a couple months.
Yeah.
So I felt it was my job, if I have something somebody wants or needs or a combination of both, that if it's going to benefit them, then I should try to help them to achieve that.
Yeah, make it happen.
Make it happen.
Because it's not going to, you got get them in there once is hard. Getting them in there again.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very rare. Very rare.
Yeah.
And for me, when you lose a couple of those people, then you're like, okay, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Because I know this will help them. I know this is what they need. How can I help them be successful?
Well, it's a common thing. Oh, I want time to think about it. Okay, cool. I
Hmm.
understand, Seth or Sarah, right? You're
Yeah.
selling a woman, you need more time to think about this.
Hmm.
Usually when I work with people, like I'm just an example,
Hmm.
but it's usually the price or, the outcome. Well, then maybe you go into the outcome and say, Sarah, everyone who comes into this program, loses X amount of pounds, whatever.
Hmm.
Sounds like you want that, so that's not the problem. Boom, you move over to the
Hmm.
price. Is this, whatever. And then you're trying to corner them to tell you what's actually, because they don't need more time to think about it. They know they want to lose the weight.
Yeah.
That's why
Hmm.
they're in there.
Hmm. Yeah. And uh, there's another facet to that presentation you just did. It's also the consequences if you don't do it.
Okay, I like
Yeah,
that.
the consequences. So, you know, what's going to happen if you don't? Because
Yeah,
most people already have health problems. The average woman, and this is, I don't remember the exact numbers on this, but the
sure.
average American woman after the age of 40 adds 5 pounds a month. A month. That's if you live at Sizzler,
Yeah.
but 5 pounds
A
a year,
year. Yeah.
and all these different things. So I'd also build up, the consequences of,
Yeah.
what happens if you don't do this.
Yeah. Do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? You want to set an example? I mean,
Yep,
all
yep.
those things.
Hmm. So that's where I really started kind of learning how to, um, I guess, basically sell something that I know somebody would needs,
Yeah.
especially, and would 100% benefit from it.
Well, and there's more, kind of like how we got onto this topic, was there's more like conviction with that sale, because it's. I mean, think about that same scenario, but they're coming in and trying to think of something that's not too comical, but you're trying to sell them, like, here's a better example. Is like weight loss pills, which don't work, right?
Right.
It's a lot harder for you to like probably sleep at night, but like
Hmm.
go through all those objections because you really know like those pills ain't doing shit,
Yeah.
man. So that's probably a parallel to that of
Hmm.
like, okay, you got into something, and it's more fun because you, especially once you get that, obviously, you want to make money, but you get people that coming up to you and that continues to happen, it's working.
Hmm.
So it's just, you're just trying to convince someone it for them to see it. It works.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things I've, like when you listen to Alex Hormozy or these people, whatever they're selling is, they sell like the people who run the company or the sales team or whatever, like you got to believe in like what you're doing
Hmm.
enough to where like, or not enough, but like to a point where it's like, yeah, this is legit. This is what we're selling. You're still going to have all those objections with whatever you sell. You could give away
Hmm.
money and people are going to be say, what's the catch?
Right. Which I did that, and I'll tell you that later. But
Yeah.
something similar. Yeah, and today 100%. I'm not selling for something that I don't think is going to benefit somebody, and I'm not going to sell something for where the company isn't going to do fulfillment and have good customer service. A lot of times, a lot of the commission only jobs, they put a lot on you. So I'm normally the
Service. Yeah.
customer service as well,
Yeah.
which I went to like Disney training, customer service training, which is pretty interesting.
Okay.
Um,
Is that like Disney World?
yeah, Disney World.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they actually it was it was at a civic center
Okay.
down the street from Disney World.
Did you dress up as Mickey Mouse?
Minnie.
Minnie.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. This is the weight loss for Minnie Mouse.
Yes. Yeah. She's really skinny now. She can get anywhere she wants to go.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. So, and then with that company, Premier Fitness Marketing, I kind of did everything with them. Ended up supervising. I set up a telemarketing because we were doing the telemarketers, right? Hiring them, like I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I built I got a dialer,
Okay.
and instead of hiring, and we tried to do everything in house.
Yeah.
So I hired telemarketers to call and give away the free 2-week passes in the different areas that we were in. I went out and helped do some promotions. That was a really fun, interesting job.
Okay.
It just kind of the windshield time got a
Yeah.
lot, the driving, and I was doing all this stuff, and just decided that, yeah, most of my sales jobs 3-4 years max.
Yeah, in turn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
3 to 4 years, and then something.
yeah, and like with that, with the next job that I had, the next job, sales job, it's like I really worked my way up
Yeah,
to where I like the challenge. It's like where I started now. There's a big challenge
yeah,
to be had. So I enjoy the grind of trying to be number one
mm,
and trying to get to the top. And I think once I kind of get there, and I know you're might be kind of the same way in the sense it's like that's why I moved to Hawaii, right? It's like I'm ready to move on to the next thing. Would it have made sense to stay at one of these companies? And probably would have made sense.
yeah,
But part of me is like, man, I want options and choices, and
yeah. You want adventure? I mean, Hawaii.
yeah,
That's a. I mean, out here is a big. Takes a couple. We actually moved at a similar time. I think like we came 20 days probably after whatever May of 21, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, coming up on 3 years, and then I had been here before that, but
mm-hmm.
it's like it's you have the culture change, right? You have the fact that you cannot drive anywhere besides the island that you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Like logistically, it is you're out here, we're both from the East Coast, right?
Yeah,
So it's like you're in Florida, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll move up to South Carolina. Like you don't have any of those options. And before I had moved back here, I went to South Carolina. And I was like, man, I love my parents, but I was like, this is too close to home. This is like a 12-hour drive, which is still far. But when you come out here, it's like you're in it. And if you're going to stay here, like you're working in this economy or you're doing something here where you have to make it. You got to make friends here. You got to make business relationships here. And it definitely, the island definitely tests you, but it's fun. I mean, that's what if it wasn't, it was boring, you'd be complaining about that.
yeah, yeah,
So I want to take this down a road. So like now you're working at Tony Honda. You're gonna sell some cars, which you've done before. And I
yeah.
don't want to skip that, but I kind of wanted like a little broader spec. If I know probably selling cars isn't like what you want to do forever, but what is like in the sales realm? Like, do you have an interest in building a team out? Do you have interest in like doing sales training? I think about people like Andy Elliott or who's real intense, but I like it. I mean, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But people like that, is that where do you like if you have do you have a goal like that to do something like that, or where do you want to go?
That's a really good question. I've had that goal. The last place that I worked before I moved here, they wanted me to manage and take everything over. But I would love to manage just a team of sales people and not have like somebody corporate behind me, if that makes sense.
Okay, so like a setting of like
Well, sorry to cut you off,
no
but
go
so a setting where the whole all the revenue is just based on selling and fulfillment, right? Where there's not other kind of arms of the company. Like when I did the pest control, that was for a Fortune 500 company, and by the time I was done there, I was the best in the nation.
okay
And but the next move there was to sit behind a desk and look at spreadsheets
okay
and not really.
quarterly results and
Yes, and not really be out there in the field and sales training, doing that type of stuff. Plus, we'll get to that, but that was a fairly easy sales job. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven
doing that.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, yeah. So my goal now, eventually, my goal is I'm working on getting my insurance license now, and I've always thought, we've talked about this. I've always thought insurance, helping people with that is a really good way to go. Plus, you can have an agency. Plus, you can so
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity there. Just waiting on everything to go through with the sales license. That's kind of where, to answer your question, if I was to lay out a path,
Yeah.
that's the path that I would like to go down. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Do you want to do? I don't know enough about insurance, but like life insurance, business insurance. Because I know there you can do home and auto, and there's like there's commercial insurance. Is there
hmm
like from people you've talked to? Is there like a kind of more specific niche you want to go into with that, or?
Two things. I think you can generate a lot of income through all those ones that you mentioned, like home, auto, all those type of things. But I think a lot of that's transactional, right?
Mm.
So it's just like you're going to call if you need insurance, right? Car insurance or uh, homeowners insurance. It's not so relationship. No, not so much a relationship now.
Yeah, it's just price. Well, especially
Just price.
auto, dude. I
Yeah,
mean, going Geico and like,
it's just price.
yeah,
What I like is the life insurance because there's a lot of different products. There's a lot of different products that are available.
mm.
So with that, it's not something that, and I could be wrong, but people just going online and picking some kind of life insurance. I think there's normally there's a personal connection to that where you meet with the person, you try to fit with the best thing for whatever their situation is. That seems like a really good route to go on as
Mm.
far as insurance is concerned. In a big picture, you'd have an insurance agency that does it all, right?
Yeah.
You know, um,
But that's some. I mean, Patrick. Patrick Van Bet David. I mean,
mhm.
what didn't he have a life insurance? He sold. I forget the name of his agency, but he sold it
Yeah.
for a lot of money, like
hmm
300. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it was like 300 million. But he had, I believe, a life insurance agency that was nationwide. And so what he did was, I think, is important is like we typically tend to think small. They're like it's like I live in Kona.
hmm
I'm gonna like do some networking. I'm gonna sell some autos and life insurance, and yeah, it's okay. But like, I think what he did was he from the top. He did a lot of media and stuff, but he created a national team either doing. I know it was life insurance, and they
Yep.
might have did other
hmm
stuff too. So
And I heard one of his podcasts or something the other day, and I like what he was talking about. So when they started, when he's talking about how I don't know if he's talking about when he started or some people that were around him when he started, but how these guys they were the ones that were in the office late.
oh
They were the
yeah,
ones making the extra phone calls. Those are the people that are typically successful.
yeah,
Doing that little bit. Sometimes it's a lot of bit, but doing that bit that's actually extra.
it's fighting that voice.
Yeah, that everyday voice says,
Yeah, I don't need.
maybe just go surfing, man. You
Yeah,
do this afternoon, and this afternoon never comes, man.
no.
That's been my experience.
Yeah, it never does. And
Yeah.
even like what I'm doing with mortgages now, just starting out, it's like we all look for, and I'm guilty of this. We all look for a strategy, right? We all want the strategy of like, I want to do some more research, and yes, we got to learn some stuff and how to do social media. But at the end of the day, the answer that I found of how you learn is volume. You want to be good at social media? Start posting. You're gonna figure it out. You're gonna suck in the beginning. You want to, I got to start doing more outbound emails and calls, right?
hmm
I think I do a lot. I've been holding myself accountable, and I look and I'm like, 25 a day is not enough. I should be doing at least 100. The rule of 100 a day,
hmm
which sounds like a lot, and it is. But like, if 1% of people are responding or whatever your thing is, that's just what it. Those are just numbers, like you said before.
Yep.
There's no other.
Yeah. After a period of time, if you're doing what you should be doing, you should be able to look at your numbers and break it down. Like I get this many deals. This is how many calls, emails you can break. You can break all this stuff down to, you know, the percentage. I've done all this before. And
Yeah.
it could be a little bit of a mind fuck.
No,
But
we've talked about it before.
yeah.
It's like you make X amount of outbound.
Yep.
You have a
hmm
response rate. Off of that response
Uh-huh.
rate, X amount. Decide to go the
hmm
next step. X% of that you
Yep.
close. I mean, it's a funnel.
Yep.
And then you just big number here. That's just your output,
Yep.
and you just
Then if you're consistent, this is what you need to do to consistently
hit that.
make this. And if you want to give yourself a raise,
Yeah,
you do more.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty pretty simple math. You just have to do math. But like we were talking about before, it's and I would have to say, you have to be, you know, disciplined.
Yeah.
Discipline. And I will say the older I get, the less, I don't know if Hawaii's rubbing off of me here, but I mean, I jump right back into what I'm doing now, but the whole discipline thing, it gets maybe a little harder,
Okay.
especially starting something new,
Yeah.
and
Well, I
maybe
don't have any confidence.
that, and it always goes back to, well, maybe I should have stayed at home team. Maybe I should have just stayed in Florida and stayed at home team, and I'd be doing X, Y, and Z, whatever
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z would be. But I wouldn't be sitting here on my porch in Hawaii talking to you right now, right? But anytime that I do something new, you have to start that whole, is this going to work?
Yeah.
How's this going to go?
The whole process.
Yeah, and this is even like starting at Tony Honda. I see what's going on there, but I've already got my mind saying, "Oh, this is going to be tough."
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do all this, and I'm going to have to do all that. And it's really not what my mind makes it out to be.
Yeah.
Just show up today, do these things today, and give myself the best chance to help the customers that I can get in front of today.
Yeah.
That I can do today. And I haven't, like, for example, at the end of this month, when I kind of see as a whole month, then I'm going to set some goals. I'll be like, okay, I want to do this many cars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to need to make this many. I don't have any analytics yet, right?
Yeah.
But once I do, then I can say this is what I need to do in order to get to this many cars.
Yep.
So that's the plan for next month. Because the worst thing for salespeople that I've seen is not having a goal
Yeah.
and a plan to get to that goal.
Yep.
Because I've been there, and it's always good to have that goal, and goal's nice, but you have to have a plan how to get there. You need to do this,
Mm-hmm.
this, and this.
Every day. And there's so many, like you're saying about like just doing the day, the things of the day, because I'm a pretty creative person. So I have, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this, we're doing this podcast thing, right? It's part of how I'm networking. I'm doing, other stuff with social media, but then I'm going to doing the open houses, and then I'm doing this, whatever, and that's all good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you can't do like 3% of each, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of looking at it and say, okay, I got to consistently do the podcast every week. So I've got 3 this week,
Mm-hmm.
right? These are just numbers, but that is actually this week. And it's only 3 hours, man. I mean, it's not a lot of time to do 3. It sounds like a lot.
Right.
And then, okay, there's one day you go to open houses. Cool. Get up early, go to everyone. Boom. That's done. Then you want to do outbound. Okay. I in my head every day when I go to bed, I'm like, I should have been doing more outreach today. Until I sit down and just fucking do it, it's not gonna happen. Right. So those are the things that we know we have to do, and then that's where it's like coming up with the input and output and the goal of what we got to do, right?
There's nothing worse, in my opinion. Well, there's some pretty bad things, but in the realm of what we're talking about, there's nothing worse than things not going well with sales or with what you're trying to accomplish or what we've tried to accomplish, and knowing you didn't do the fucking work.
Yeah.
And going to bed at nighttime and just being like, man, I just didn't do what it takes today to make this happen. That feeling should motivate you to do it the next day.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you put in a day of like you really felt like you grinded out, I think it's normal every day. At least I am on myself. I could have done more. Right. It's just naturally.
Yeah.
But there are days like a couple days, maybe not yesterday. I kind of slacked off when shooting with, but the day before I was like, all right, cool. I can sleep tonight. Like I can turn my brain off a little bit and know I did what I knew I needed to do today. Right. And that goes back to, it's not a new strategy. It's just the work just needs to be done. Mm-hmm.
So back to the sales thing real quick.
Yeah.
I do definitely want to talk about, so I was doing that Premier Fitness marketing and decided I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. And
I saw this ad. I was looking for another sales job, and these guys basically, I can't even come close to remember the ad for verbatim.
Yeah.
But they posted something like, look, if you're a hardcore sales guy, If you're not, I mean, I looked at the ad like, if you're not a bitch
Yeah.
and you want to make some money, this ain't gonna be easy.
Yeah.
Come come check us out.
Yeah.
That that's basically, and the ad got my attention,
Yeah.
and that's when I ended up at Dimmitt Chevrolet. That's in Clearwater, Florida,
Okay.
and I had no idea what was going on there at the time, but I later found out that I had uh, thankfully been hired by like one of the best sales teams in America. The guy, my GM, Scott Clore, fantastic, fantastic guy, very dynamic. Everybody loves this guy. Like isn't a good. Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
He kind of demanded respect too. He was just that type of guy.
Yeah.
And he could drag your ass under the carpet too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And you'd still like him after he did it. He's just that type of guy. So he would go into struggling dealerships and bring his team in and make them like superstores.
Okay.
So that's what he did at Dimmitt. And I got in there about after 4 or 5 months after that team was in there. And just to give you an example, they were selling 50 new cars a month when I got there. When I left, they were selling over 200 new cars a month.
Wow.
Same spot, same brand.
Yeah. Same market. Yeah.
Same everything, right?
Yeah.
But these guys were serious about sales. You know what I mean? And they were serious about you being a professional, and they were serious about training. And I thought all these little sales things I told you up to this point, I thought, yeah, I'm a good sales guy. I know what I'm doing. I learned so much from that because we had sales training every single day, and these guys were so dynamic. Their managers there were so dynamic, such good trainers, and using real life situations. This one guy, Bobby Amino, loved this guy. He's like I don't know if he was in the mafia before.
Sounds Italian. Bobby Amino.
Yeah, Bobby Amino, and he just had that New York accent, and you assume he's in the mafia. But how they do their sales training was just fantastic, so engaging, and I absolutely loved working for those guys. I learned so much about sales, so much about closing, so much about how, because you did the car thing for a little while. People, like, if you take them out of they're sitting on their home, you put them in a car dealership, they freak the fuck out.
Yeah, it's almost it's like worse. It's probably, I'm sure when it's ranked, it's like worse than the dentist. You know what I mean? People hate going to a car dealership.
Yeah, and we mentioned closing earlier, but closing has a start, right? And if you don't start with step 1, you're never going to get to step 10, which is closing, for example, right?
Yeah.
And what these guys told me, same thing with the Social Security. I understand what's your Social Security number. These guys said, look, when you introduce yourself to these people, you say, hi, welcome to Dimmitt Chevrolet. What you do, once you do that, you say, follow me, and you just turn and walk to the door.
Yeah.
And they're like, they'll follow you.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. Get them inside.
Yeah. Because I'm just looking outside. Yeah.
Yeah, get them inside. Follow me. And I started doing that, and people were following me. I was like, these guys know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because then you could sit them down, then you can kind of go through the process instead of them wandering around a car a lot with, 100.
How much is this one?
How much is this one? Where's this car?
Sit them down and qualify them.
And, that's all an advantage to a salesperson, right? Doing the sales process that ends up at close. But it's also a huge advantage to the customer, right? Because if the customer is just going to wander around a lot, ask how much this car is, that car, how many weekends are they going to spend looking at cars? If they bump into a real salesman who's actually going to help them and get past all that stuff that people have when they come into a car dealership and just help them through the process. My job was, let me help get these people in and out of here as quickly as possible. If I got what they want and I can get it in their budget, great. If not, let me send them down the street.
Yeah.
And that's what I finally learned from, like, how do you help a customer? And a lot of times it's like, I do this every day, Mr. Customer. Mm. You do this once every 4 years. You might come in here thinking, that this is how you're going to do it. But that way is not going to be successful in you getting the car that you want in a short time frame. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, when I first started working there, these people were just running me around like I was
Yeah.
an idiot, and I was
Yeah.
just, doing
Yeah.
this, doing that, and being new, don't really know what to do, especially in the car. There's so much stuff going on at a car dealership, so many questions, so much stuff. I just was like, I have no idea. I
Yeah.
think I used I'm new for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Bear with me, I'm new. Because I saw how good that worked, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, learning how to help people through that process, right? Because people are naturally reluctant when they come to a car dealership.
Yeah.
They just don't want to. They just have an idea in their mind of how this thing's going to go. And the cool thing on the back end of this thing is that I can't tell you how many people told me thank you so much. Can't believe how this process went. You're the best sales guy that I've ever had, and I started, getting all these referrals and all this stuff. Because it is people's natural inclination to say, I'm just looking,
Yeah.
right? Let's just say tomorrow you and Danny need some furniture. You know exactly what furniture you need, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever been to like a furniture store where it's just full of furniture, right?
Man, I bought my futon from Walmart. So
You've never been to like Ashley's?
no, I haven't.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. We don't really have one here so much.
There is one here,
Is there?
right
Oh,
across
okay.
the street from
Don't
Costco.
tell Danny that I'm not going there, man.
Yeah. But anyway, you can know exactly what you need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're looking for a sectional.
Yeah. And I mean, so when you go into like a furniture store like that, all the furniture looks like they're all in sets.
Yeah.
Right. You have a thing. So anyway, you walk in the door, you know exactly what you need. The sales guy stand there and say, "Hey, how you doing? Can I help you?" Knee-jerk reactions. I'm just looking.
Yeah.
Right. So if you say that and the sales guy doesn't know how to overcome that, what you're going to do now is wander around this furniture store and wonder, is this part of a set,
Yeah.
is this you're just going to, you can make a Saturday morning that can take an hour and a half, you can turn it into a
6 hour.
a
Yeah.
6 hour
And
deal.
you're still not gonna buy anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the next place. So salesperson's job should be to help the customer, right? So if somebody comes in and has that objection, it's my job to handle that objection and try to help them find what they're looking for and help them get in and out of there as quickly as possible with what they want. That's something that fits their budget. And of course, I make a commission for that.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I earn that commission by turning them wandering around 3 or 4 furniture stores like a zombie, looking
Yeah.
around for stuff, not sure what goes together, what doesn't go together. So I think that as salespeople, our job is to really help the customer through the through the sales process before AI just does it all.
Yeah.
for
Takes
us.
us through it.
Yeah.
Takes us out.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know what time it is?
Oh, it's almost 5.
Is it almost 5?
Yeah.
What time is it?
10 till 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got like 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, sales is really helping people get what they want or need and hopefully finding something that fits within their budget. It's really, in my opinion, it's really that simple.
Yeah.
And if I can help somebody do that and do it in a timely manner and provide good customer service on the back end and the communication, then I feel like I'm doing my job really, 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 really well, and hopefully wherever I'm doing that at, that, I get compensated.
Yeah. Yeah. They support you and they can come through with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I know we mentioned closing a little bit earlier, but what I've learned over the years, even the last 7, 8 years,
Yeah.
that closing, right? Closing used to be this thing, you get to the end, then I'm going to handle all these objections, and I'm going to try to close. You're going to be like, well, I need to think about it. Well, the price,
Yeah.
all these things. And that's how I used to kind of approach closing, was like, you do your little spiel, you try to help them out, get blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, you're just handling all these objections. But
Yeah.
that's not really how closing should be, right? Closing shouldn't be that way. What I should do is throughout this whole process, I should be uncovering and discovering these things that can potentially be objections and handle those so that way I don't have this litany of things to handle at the end of a sale. You know, all these, and we talked a little bit about like if you were to come to the car dealership and I know you're married, I see a wedding ring, you know, for example, I'd be like, and this is before you're sitting at a table where you're looking at a
Yeah.
contract, right?
Yeah.
This is all that this type of stuff, and I see you wearing a wedding ring. I'll be like, oh hey Ryan, you know, after we build a little rapport, I'll be like, oh, you're out car shopping without your wife,
Yeah.
you know, and kind of make it like a kind of a funny, inquisitive
Yeah,
thing.
instead of saying, "Is there anyone else you need to ask about this transaction today?" or whatever, you know, that the natural spiel would be, right?
Right, and normally in that conversation, you're going to tell me what you know. Well, my wife could care less about what car I get.
Yeah.
And I could just, and then when you tell me that, I can kind of, you know, dig a little bit deeper in that. She could care less about what car you want.
Yeah, I wish my wife
Ryan?
didn't care.
Yeah, I wish she didn't care.
Yeah.
So, at what level of you spending money does she really care? Mine probably starts caring about $30,000. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And just try to get a little bit of that information
Out.
on the table, so that way, if that does come up, I can refer back to that. Like, hey, Brian, man, you already told me. Because we
Yeah.
all know what. So what we're really trying to get here to is the real objection. So if I handle all these small things that people are going to throw at you, the real objection is normally the money.
Yeah, price.
Price, right? So I'd be like, hey, Ryan, you already told me your wife doesn't care. You already told me out there that, you know, she doesn't care what you buy as long as it's under or whatever. So what's really going on? What's the real problem?
I don't like you.
Well, that happens more often than you think. So I've learned for closing is to handle these things before they become an issue. And I only learned those by getting hammered by them.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
hammered,
get
hammered,
punched.
punch,
Yeah.
punch, punch, punch,
Yeah.
punch, punch. You know, unfortunately, that's how I've learned in the sales business. I haven't taken everything and ran with it. I take things as they come.
Yeah.
You know, when these things happen. So yeah, and there's quite a few different ways to have these conversations with people and try to, because there is another thing that I know that I dealt with and still can, and a lot of salespeople deal with, and that's fear. Right? It's fear. You know, fear to have that conversation, fear to say certain things,
Yeah.
fear, and you really have to just, you know, go for it. Now, you don't want to be offensive. You don't want to be overbearing. There's a lot of things you don't want to do because it's not going to work out good for
Yeah.
you or for whoever you're selling for. But I mean, by not having the fear to ask those questions.
Well, and it's like it's in the room, right? People know no matter what you're selling, if it's cars or pest control or whatever, right? It's in the air, right? So you can do this. I probably sell more on rapport than I probably should. That's a lot of what I do. But at the end of the day, I still, you know, you have to transition to like, okay, you know, for mortgages, like, are you working with anybody right now?
Right.
Yes. Cool. Are you having a good experience with, with them? Yeah, I am. Okay, awesome. You know, and it's like figuring out, those different conversations. And sometimes people just don't, you don't have to work with everybody. You can't, you kind of have to like feel people out and realize you don't have to just go for the kill. I was talking with Sam Chouse about this, and it was like calling someone and just being like, and just going for it every time is not necessarily like, because although you can get the volume in, it's if you can do the volume with some sort of technique, it's like, you still need the volume, but doing both is.
And here, we should be close to wrapping this up because I really would like a nap on my day off, just even if it's for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Here's totally different though, man, and it's pretty cool. At least being at Tony Honda, it is so low pressure and so chill, and I know it's the vibe of the Big Island as well. It's all rapport. It's 90% rapport and 10% selling.
Yeah.
On the mainland, a lot of the things I've done, it's so transactional it's like 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's here it's a little different. And the main worry that they had, and they were telling us about, some guys that sold on the mainland have a real hard time. There's like 3 guys in the last few months that have been really good, but
Yeah.
they couldn't transition to that.
Here.
Yeah, transition to that thing here. And maybe it also helps I've been here for a little while now.
Couple of years. Yeah.
Because when I first got here, I was like,
Yeah.
trying to get all this stuff, and I finally, man, everything's,
Gotta let go.
yeah,
Yeah.
gotta let go. And I was like, okay, I can, maybe it's good just chill,
Yeah.
slow down a little bit, make sure I do my stuff,
Yeah.
but not expect anybody else to do their stuff,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's like I'm finding. Well, we found with other stuff is it's like you just go. It's almost like just making friends in a way. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it's really not. It's not a lot different than that. I mean, it's yes, there's always the part of you that wants to ask. But at the same time, it's like the value exchange. It's like build some value with that person. Can you help that person? Can you do this? And most of the time, even like just the conversations. When we've cold called, and I was laughing about actually when we were trying to do some marketing services here, and we spent like a day, me and Seth spent a day making phone calls and just trying to sell, boom, 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 and even the people that wouldn't tell us to like fuck off and they'd stay on the phone, you could tell in their voice they were like, okay, yeah, look forward to seeing your email come through.
Yeah.
But then we switched it, and I think I kind of said to Seth, I was like, how do we switch this conversation? I was like, I don't want to keep doing this, even though we didn't do it for that long, to where we would call and we would do these like, hey, we've got these Google review cards, which were legitimate things someone could use for their business, and you just built a relationship with somebody, from that.
Yep.
And then boom, every single person
Yep.
ended up asking
Yep.
if we could do some other marketing stuff. So
Yeah. So much better.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's fun, and it got fun. I mean, it was like,
yeah, I enjoyed that, and how well that worked in the transition. We didn't even have to do the transition. You just say, here, we're going to give this to help you, chat for a little while, and you can uncover some things. If you can, as being sales and what we're trying to do, if you can get somebody if you can have rapport, you can find out what they need or what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Mainly, somebody bangs on your door, and they're, you're just going to be you're not going to find out anything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
yeah, you got nothing. It's cool, man. Well, any closing remarks, or you think we've been in like an hour? This has been a long one, I think. So
Yeah. I don't have too many closing remarks other than that this was fun, and sales is really, I absolutely love doing sales, and I have my other business here. It's not, you answer the phone,
yeah,
get the sale, so
Yeah.
I've been missing that sales thing, so it'll be interesting and should be fun to see how it goes there at Tony Honda for
Cool,
a while.
man.
Yeah.
We'll do an update in a couple months.
Okay.
I'll come in dealership and see ya.
Yeah. I'll be bald. I won't have any hair left.
All right.
All right, bro. Thanks.